Welcome to the program. Turn the microphone. Welcome to the program. It is 12:09 on a Wednesday afternoon, and that means it's midweek with the mayor. Hey, Mayor, how you doing?
I'm well. You know, that song's put me in the Christmas spirit, Barry.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
No place like home for the holidays.
I would have guessed Bing Crosby. I guess it's Perry Como.
Perry Como, yeah. Do you remember Perry Como? Were you old
I do
enough?
not.
You
No.
don't remember
No,
Perry Como?
I don't. No. I recognize the song.
Yeah, he used to wear a sweater, and he would put people to sleep when he sang. That was what he was famous for.
Well, I am feeling a little drowsy.
Yeah, a little.
Played that little snippet.
Yeah, he was a very low key kind of guy, but he would do a Christmas special every year, and he'd come out with his cardigan sweater, and he would sing with the fake snow and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's.
Those were the days.
Those were the days of television. Yeah, when we had like 4 channels, and we didn't have 700 channels with nothing on them. So we got an update from the mayor, who last week told us he had his Christmas tree in the stand leaning against the wall. Mm-hmm. But since then, the tree is now in an upright position.
Yes, we've made progress. It is upright, though not stable, and it's adorned with some new lights that I had to buy at CVS. Yes, like the lights I had didn't work. I mean, I had like, I don't know, 6 or 8 strings of lights, Barry, and every one of them was broken. I had to throw them all out.
Right.
So
I hate that.
I hate that. But you know, bought some more, and then I told the girls, "Okay, go put the ornaments on," and then that was enough for me. Until they put, as I said, the thing's not stable, and they put the ornaments on more or less on one side, and so it started to fall over. And
oh no! So what did you like? Duct tape it to the
wall
or
something?
Well, then
I had to lean it against the wall a little bit. So it's still
in
a slightly leaning
screws
position
down at the bottom there that you like tighten.
Yeah, you know, that thing's not, the stand's not in the best shape.
No.
Yeah. So, but it looks nice. And now all I have to do is start shopping.
I had to I plugged in the tree night before last, and I hate when you have a strand of lights that half of it goes out.
Yeah.
Half of the strand goes out. So what do you do? I mean, you can't turn it against the wall or whatever to put. So I had to take the lights off the tree that was already decorated last night. So I had to do the same thing.
Oh, that's a drag.
Yeah. So I had to go around and take the lights off and then relight the tree.
Yeah.
So I had to go out and buy new lights. But I think they make them that way on purpose so that they, half of it dies and you got to.
Swear that's the case.
Every year you got to buy new lights that way.
Yeah. No, it's the same thing, and they go off for no reason. They're not. If they work in one year and you storm the next year, and then all of a sudden half the lights are on, like, how could that be?
Right. Or even when you put them on, you plug them in, you test them before you put it on, right? And you light them, perfect, and put them on the tree and they go out.
Yeah, I don't get it. They're all made in China now.
Got to buy local. Got to buy local Christmas lights.
If there were somebody who made them locally, I would buy them in a heartbeat. But no such luck.
We got to go and recruit a Christmas manufacturing plant here.
We do.
Yeah. So everything city-wise ready for the holidays and everything?
I think so. Yeah. I think we're done with our tree lightings. Although maybe there's one more. I can't recall off the top of my head. We'll make sure if there is another one. We'll get you that information. But the tree lightings we had were all really well attended. The downtown tree lighting was great. There had to have been more than 500 people there.
Wow. And
the tree lighting, or the lighting of Klasky Common, was also very successful. There were a few hundred people there, and then Loretta Burke's tree lighting on Ruth Street was very well. There had to have been a few hundred people there as well. Those are the big 3, and then there were a few neighborhood tree lightings as well. But it's all good stuff. People seem to be in the mood. The downtown businesses seem like they're doing pretty well downtown. And Acushnet Avenue, the retailers seem to be doing well. As I said, I haven't started my shopping yet, but I'm about to, and I know that I'm going to.
Well, the big bucks are going to start flowing now.
Well, yeah. So my next stop, and I hope everybody out there listening keeps this a secret, but I'm going to Falco Jewelers, Acushnet Avenue, Nash Road. Tony Falco, I know, listens to this program.
Okay.
So that's my first stop, and that'll be a big step for me, Barry. I know it's December 20th, and most people are done by now, like you and
so are you looking for
other responsible people. I don't think Tony puts things on sale leading up to Christmas.
He's going to see you.
It's a great store.
He's
a great guy and makes good stuff, but I'm not expecting any discounts.
No. So a little bit of jewelry just between us, huh?
Just between us.
Yeah, just between us. Don't tell anybody.
I don't know. I really don't know what I'm buying. So because the guys like me don't know
Hey, Tony, roll the
anything
good stuff
about
out. Roll the
jewelry.
good stuff out.
Yeah, he doesn't. So you have to trust the guy who's selling it. So Tony's a very trustworthy guy. So that's why.
So shop
Don't
local,
go in.
and the local folks that seem to
I'll
be
tell you
doing
what.
well.
I'll tell you what. So year in and year out, it takes a little bit of thinking, but I stick around New Bedford. You know, every once in a while I'll go over to the mall. Every once in a while I'll get on Amazon, but by and large, you know, what I buy is and has been before I was mayor, has been in the city, in the downtown and on the avenue. If you can, for instance, every year, virtually every year, and we'll keep this between us as well.
Okay.
Each year I'll buy my parents you know, like a tickets to something at the Z, and then buy them a gift certificate around the corner of one of the restaurants, and that seems to work pretty well. People like, you know, dinner and a show.
Sure.
But you can do that in the downtown. That's easy. So, you know, I just I do encourage people to shop locally because you can get stuff that you can't get on Amazon.
Right.
You know.
And that's the gift that gives twice. I mean, you give them the gift of the tickets on Christmas, and then later
Exactly.
on when the show
Yeah.
is happening, it's like, you know, you're giving them a new gift all over
Yeah.
again. So
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. So stuff like that. But I do wait to the last minute, and I think we're officially in the last minute right about now.
We're
close
getting
to it.
there.
We're
Yeah, we're getting close to
the last,
overtime here.
The last
Yeah.
couple of minutes.
So when I used to live in Burlington, Vermont, some years ago, Mayor Bernie Sanders, there were stores that would really highlight locally made products, and a lot of stuff up there. And we make a lot of stuff here, a lot of stuff, a lot of artisans and crafts and that. I mean, you ever think of giving like special spotlight to New Bedford products and really highlight it a lot?
Well, we do. So, you know, there are certainly a number of artisans who sell their wares, not just in the downtown and on the Ave, but also in places like the Hatch Street Studios. Mm-hmm. You know, that's a good place to shop, or down in the mills, the Kilburn Mill down on the Cove, and there are a handful of other places. But again, you know, the handmade stuff like that is stuff you can't get on Amazon. If you want something unique, do that. So we try to promote that as much as you can. I mean, the big stuff that we make, like Joseph Abboud Joseph Abboud suits, Titleist golf balls, you know, those are good things to buy, of course. But you can get, you know, you can buy those at major retailers. I'm not about to start, you know, giving away a bag of scallops for Christmas, or a bushel of cranberries, you know, from out in you know, some of the area towns. But it's, you know, there are stores, if you go downtown especially, there are stores who sell locally made products. You and I were talking before we went on the air about the Landing.
Yep, awesome place.
Right on Front Street. Those guys seem to be doing pretty well, and they really push the locally made stuff. So, and that's not the only one. I don't mean to, you know, give them preferential treatment, but yeah, I mean, it's with a little bit of effort, you can really find some great stuff.
Nothing like getting a New Bedford item and sending it off to somebody. As I was telling you off air, I had at the Landing some shirts made up for my son, who's living across the country right now, and the pride that they get in wearing a New Bedford shirt.
So he's not listening today.
He's not listening today unless he's online. But yeah, I don't think he's up yet. It's 2 hours behind us out that way. But all right, so we're all set for Christmas. We'll talk a little bit about New Year's. We can do that next week, I guess, because we'll have one more show before the New Year celebration, but we will have the celebration. What about I got a whole list of things here, and I'm just not sure.
Yeah, go ahead, far away.
Let's start with the marijuana. Apparently there's been a bill filed in the legislature that's gaining some steam that would help to set guidelines for where marijuana can be consumed, marijuana products. And we've talked about this a million times, but we're still waiting, I guess, for some guidance. But what do you think about the idea of marijuana being consumed in bars, restaurants, movie theaters are included in that? We don't have movie theaters in New Bedford anymore, but public places like that. I mean, I know you had talked at one point about liking, your preference would be to see a zone maybe on Hathaway Road where marijuana products could be purchased. But what about the consumption of them? Would you favor bars where people go and smoke dope while they're hanging out watching a football game? Or
well, in Massachusetts, you can't smoke anything in public place. You can't smoke a cigarette in a bar anymore, right? So, or a theater, or really any other public space. So, what they're probably talking about are marijuana edibles, you know, or oils, or some other marijuana-based product that people can consume without smoking it. And so, you know, I think it's if it's otherwise legal, it's going to be a very hard thing to police. In other words, if someone is sitting in a restaurant and they, would like to consume a marijuana edible and just reach into their pocket and pop it in their mouth, I mean, it's to my mind, it's really going to be hard to to stop that. What will probably the way to enforce, the way to deal with it, any potential problem is just to deal with it as you would anything else. If someone's drunk in a bar or, otherwise misbehaving, the law allows for redress, right? So if someone's high as a kite because they've consumed marijuana edibles in a bar and they're acting up in the bar, then the bar owner has the right to call the police, or patrons have the right to call the police and have the police come in and arrest the person for doing whatever they're doing, if they're assaulting people or just being unruly, or to kick the person out because the bar owner wants the person out. So that's probably the way that it's going to shake out. I mean, you and I've talked about this all the time. Every time the state tries to micromanage these things, they usually, in the absence of input from local government, they tend not to get it right. I'm deeply skeptical about sort of the fine-tuning of some of these regulations. We in cities, at least in this city, are frankly in a better position to know how to handle these things than the state legislature.
What are your concerns about these edibles and maybe getting into schools and various things like that? Because they are going to be very difficult to detect.
Well, that's just it. Yeah, the edibles. The problem with the edibles primarily is the risk to kids and the attractiveness of those things to kids. And so, I mean, you can imagine scenarios in which, not only can those things be brought into school, but also be marketed in ways that are appeal to kids. Think about, Joe Camel-like campaigns that might appeal to children. Even though they're said not to be, they very well could be appealing to children. I mean, every purveyor of a consumer product in this country wants to market to kids in some way because they want to establish brand loyalty. They want that person to stick with their product over the course of their adult life. And I can imagine that marijuana edibles would be an exception to that. So that's the big risk. And sure, you will have laws in place that say, in so many words, that will prohibit the consumption of edibles by anyone under 21 years old. But again, because they can be snuck into school, or otherwise consumed, it's going to create another public health risk for kids.
I can just see it now. Edibles being brought in, looking very much like candies, into a school, and then actually being marketed in the school to students during the course of the day.
I mean, the schools for sure. I mean, I could speak for New Bedford, but I'm sure it's this way. Will be this way everywhere else. I mean, there will be rules against it, and teachers will be alerted to it. But again, it's just it's one more thing that we have to monitor. That schools would have to monitor.
Right. What about the employee health care thing? Last time I spoke to you, you were still in meetings with various city councilors. Mm-hmm. After the first of the year, you want to introduce another, motion to go before the council to have them consider this, opening it up and renegotiating. So what kind of progress are you making?
I think we're making good progress. I've sat down with most of the new city council, and I think by the time we're done, I'll have talked to all of them about municipal health care reform, and the new councilors recognize that we have a problem. We have the fiscal situation in the city is such that there aren't a lot of other places to cut, and we as a city have, I believe, imposed too much on taxpayers, and there are folks in various parts of the city who own their own homes and live on fixed incomes, and every time taxes go up, it's in some cases a very serious imposition on them. So we have to, in government, figure out how to become more efficient, how to take advantage of the options we have when it comes to a very expensive cost like to city government, like healthcare. So we tried it before, and the city council didn't go along with it. I'm optimistic though that that this time around we'll have a good shot at it, and I think the councilors know that we don't have a lot of room to maneuver. Just so everybody understands, I mean, folks who are listening have probably heard a little bit about municipal health care reform, but basically what the state law allows us to do, if we adopt the state law, is to have the ability to go to an arbitrator if we cannot agree with our public employee unions about the terms of their health care plans. You know, right now the public employee unions can just say no, and we have to absorb the cost. So because the costs of health care premiums for employees are paid for shared by the city government as well as the employees, we have to pick up those increases. In fact, we pick up 3/4 of them. 75% of those costs are picked up by the city, and it's just not sustainable. So
whenever I bring this up on the air,
what people should know is the rise in healthcare costs is making it more difficult for us to pay for all the other things that people find important in city government, police and schools and parks and everything else that we want to see grow and succeed. It's becoming harder and harder to do that because we haven't done what so many other communities have done, and that's adopt municipal health care reform and allow and enable ourselves to get our arms around those costs.
Well, this is the perception that somehow or another this is a take back, that somehow that you're going to be asking union workers, city workers to take less, to settle for less, and to really give back benefits that they have. And people will call in and say, look, these people work hard, they don't get as much money as they would get out of the private sector.
Right.
So the equalizer here is a good health plan. And by changing, the city wants to go in and take away from what the employees are getting. So how do you, that's the perception. How do you respond to that? I mean, that's what the council basically said last year when this came up, or earlier this year.
Yeah, no, I think it's important that our employees have good health care. There's no argument there. But, you know, it's subject to what we can afford as a city. You know, the city has, no employee can say that, you know, the city hasn't raised taxes to pay for it, because we have, and there comes a point where we can only go to that well so much, or cut other things that we care about, and that we don't have a lot of options there. We just don't. I mean, city government has shrunk considerably in the last 10 years. There are over 200 fewer employees in city government now than there were 10 years ago. And I'm not even talking about the school department, I'm just talking about the city government. It's shrunk substantially. So, you know, what I'm trying to do as mayor is to make sure that we can continue to provide for our employees, that we continue to provide the services that our residents expect and deserve, and be able to pay the bills for all of it. And the reality is, where our healthcare plans in New Bedford are more generous compared to the average healthcare plans of municipal employees, certainly around this state, but as well as in many
So
others.
what might be the major changes? Higher co-pays, for example?
Yeah, so it could be higher co-pays, could be higher deductibles, and it's all in different kinds of plans. So we have a number of plans that are very generous that people often buy even when they don't need it. When I say people, employees buy even when they don't need it, because they know that the city picks up 75% of the cost, right? It's always easy. I mean, it goes back to the old adage, it's always easier to spend somebody else's money. If the city's paying for 75% of it, you might be willing to buy more than even you really need. So that's another consideration as well. But those are the things that I'm sure we'll end up talking about: co-pays, deductibles, and just the terms of the plans.
So how soon after the first of the year do you expect discussion, or would you like to see discussion on this weekend?
Well, the discussion's already happening. So I've been spending the last 2 or 3 weeks talking individually with councils about this. The city has a very effective healthcare consultant that was hired during the last administration that I've kept on, who's been who's really helped us navigate some of these thorny issues around healthcare costs. And I've had him sit down with a number of counselors. Did so just a couple of days ago to explain you know, I don't want to call it the pickle we're in, but the challenge we face. And I've been really pleased with the way that the city councilors have listened and considered our input on this, and I think it bodes well for a good working relationship as we enter the new term.
Now, there was some, a couple of years back, if I remember correctly, there was a state law that was passed that allowed communities, municipalities to buy into the state insurance system.
Right.
The same system that the state police and others currently buy into. Is that the avenue that you're looking at? Or are we looking at staying with the
We have the ability to do that right now.
Right. Would Blue Cross come to the table with a better deal? I mean, that's what the city has Blue Cross now, right?
It does.
Yeah.
So that you're talking about the so-called GIC option.
Thank you. Yes,
the
GIC.
Group Insurance Commission
Yeah.
is the body that administers the healthcare plans and other insurance plans for state employees. So under state law now, municipalities have the option of pursuing entry into the GIC. And oftentimes that the plans the GIC offers are less expensive to municipalities. And many municipalities have gone that route around the state. You know, for us, it would be a little more effective. By that I mean it would be a little more cost effective. It would cost us a little bit less. The downside is that once you put your employees into the GIC, you lose control over, you know, the benefits, and you can't really tweak things because you're turning it over to the state essentially. Mm-hmm. So, but that's an option that we have to, you know, continue to.
But that's a bargaining chip too, right? Because as I recall,
indeed,
the way Fall River did is they moved toward the GIC,
yes,
which prompted Blue Cross to come to the table with a better deal, and they wound up
so
staying with Blue Cross.
And that's the way we've pursued it. We've done the same thing. But the GIC option is always open. It's always on the table, and I prefer not to do that, but we have to consider it.
All right, let me take a break. 508-996-0500. A lot of folks want to talk to the mayor. We're going to grab some calls right after this quick break. Stay with us. You're listening to 1420 WBSM. All right, we are back with the mayor for the next 27 minutes, and 26 and a half minutes. And 508-996-0500 is our phone number, and we're taking your phone calls. We're going to get right to the phones because you got a lot of people hanging there, man. They all want to.
I'm ready for it, Barry.
They want to help you decorate your tree or do your shopping or whatever.
I need a lot of help.
All right, let's get to the phones. You're next on WBSM. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
How you all feeling?
I'm feeling very well.
Very well, good.
Yeah.
All right, a few things about the cannabis. Mr. Mayor, please do some research, man, because I promise you, if you do the right research and you research out in California where they've been feeding cannabis brownies and cookies to children in elementary school to keep them controlled the right way, you wouldn't have the problem that you have in the school systems that we have in our city right now.
So dope the kids up in kindergarten? You're advocating doping the kids up?
From elementary school up, they're giving them edibles with the right dose. It's time for our society to wake up. I am so sick of hearing this thing with cannabis. I wonder how many officers would have their jobs tomorrow if you all gave them drug tests today, and how many of them would fail for cocaine, alcohol, and other things.
All right, we're kind of going on a different direction. I'm just still stunned by your first remark. You think that we should be drugging our kids in grammar school to get them to behave?
No, listen. If you're giving a kid Ritalin, you hear me?
Well, I'm not giving a kid Ritalin, and
No. If you're giving a child, if you're a mayor who is all right with a child getting fed Ritalin and knowing that Ritalin will make that child, 80% of children who take Ritalin become pill-addicted adults.
All right, I don't disagree with you, but I mean, Mayor,
hold on a second. Give me 1 second.
I don't know about you, but I'm not a medical professional.
Right. But give me 1 second, please. You guys are not going to let me get. You guys are not going to give me a second. The problem that we have in our city with all these people taking the heroin and the opiates that they're taking is because I guarantee you a huge majority of them were on Ritalin as children. It's time for us to stop seeing things for what they are.
I've never heard anybody say. I've never heard anybody tell me that it would be a good thing to feed children marijuana edibles and expect.
I'm not saying that you. I'm not saying that. I'm not surprised that you don't have.
You're next to WBSM. Good afternoon.
Good lunchtime, guys.
Hey, how are you, Dirty D?
This is Dirty D, and you know I'm nothing but trouble.
What do you got for us?
How you doing, love?
All right.
Hi, John.
How are you?
Great. Merry Christmas to both of you.
Same to you. Same to you.
Now you know I'm going to lower the boom on you.
I'm ready.
You know that.
I'm bracing myself.
What are you going to do about, do we have any incentives on the parking meters to have an incentive to shop in your downtown?
As a matter of fact, we do. During the holidays, from Thanksgiving through the end of the year, the first 2 hours downtown are free. That's a
wonderful
pretty good incentive. Yeah.
All day, all night?
Yeah, well, for the first 2 hours, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, is there a cutoff? Is there a catch here somewhere?
No catch.
Oh, scary.
No catch.
40 degrees,
yeah.
50 in
Come
the
on
sun.
down. Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought it up so we can remind everybody.
Thank you, John.
Come on downtown and shop.
Yeah.
That was easy. That was an easy question.
Yeah. I got that one right.
You're next on WBSM. Good afternoon.
Yes, I've got two questions for the mayor, and I'll ask, and I'll two of them and hang up. The first one is, can you give me some information, or the people in New Bedford, on that project next to Market Basket, the cleaning of the north end of the river? How much longer is that going on? Is that going to become a continuous job there, or is that a company that's moved in? And number two question is, vehicles that are registered to the city of New Bedford, I'm seeing them outside of New Bedford as far away as Mattapoisett shopping. And I know they're not fire response. I know they're not police response. They're black vehicles. Some say assessors or building department. And these, I see them continuously out of the city at night. And I was wondering if you could just respond to that question. Thank you.
Two good questions. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. So you want to take them in any certain order?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you have information about that and you think that there's some, misconduct, let us know. I mean, so this is the first I'm hearing of that, but
take a picture.
Take a picture and send it in. I think that's the simple answer. So, but I appreciate your bringing it up. As far as the EPA activity in the harbor goes, so that is the EPA dewatering facility, or I always get the two confused, the dewatering and the desanding facility. There's one facility over near the North Terminal, and then there's the one on Sawyer Street. But what that facility has been doing for the better part of the last 20 years has been helping remove contaminants from the that have been scooped up as part of the harbor cleanup. The harbor cleanup was scheduled to go on for another 40 years or so. Just and it had been up until a couple of years ago an exercise in taking the money that was available in the Superfund program, the federal Superfund program, and dredging the harbor until the money ran out, and then they start back the next year. If there was money available, they'd use that as well. It's like $15 million a year, year after year after year. 3 years ago, the Environmental Protection Agency settled a case with AVX, the former the successor of Aerovox, or the parent. I don't know what the corporate is. It's the successor to Aerovox Corporation. To clean up the harbor, and AVX paid $366 million plus interest, which will work out to, in the end, to about $400 million. So that $400 million is accelerating the cleanup, whereas it was going to be 40 years or so. Now it's going to be about 7 years, and we're about a year into that 7 at this point. So they're looking at another 6 or 7 years roughly. That's the last estimate that I got. They'll be in the upper harbor for another 2.5 years. That's the most contaminated area. So the former Aerovox plant on the Acushnet River was the source of most of the contamination in the harbor, and is still subject to cleanup. That site, which is just an asphalt parking lot now, is still heavily contaminated, and their AVX will be required to clean that up as well. But what we're trying to do is to work with the EPA to promote the cleanup that allows us to build the Riverwalk. We want to have the Riverwalk, which will start right around Coggeshall Street and go right up the Acushnet River all the way to the park that's now located where the Acushnet sawmill used to be. And I think it's going to be great. And one of the things that we really would like to see in the years ahead, once the cleanup is done, is boating up in that part of the harbor. There were some crew boats a few years ago, and now that's died off just because the cleanup has picked up. But that will come back, and I don't see any reason why we can't have small recreational boating in that part of the Acushnet River, that part of the harbor. We have the challenge of bridge clearances on Coggeshall Street and 195, but you can still, in fact, I just did this the other day, you can still get underneath that in a fairly small boat, like a Boston whaler. So wouldn't it be great if in the years ahead you could have a small marina or two in the northern harbor? That would be a nice complement to all the mill redevelopment that's happened there, to the Riverwalk that's just starting now to be built. That part of the city in the next 4 or 5 years out. It's going to take a while because the cleanup's going to take a while. But if 4 or 5 years out, you're going to see a very different place there, and it's something that I think people will be proud of in the long run. And it's it's taken a long time will have taken a long time to get to that point. A lot of planning and a lot of working and hand-holding with the EPA, but it's moving along.
I can remember when Jack Markey first got involved in all of that, and I can remember being at a press conference when he said the EPA doesn't know what's going to happen. If we stick a shovel in the ground there, is it going to explode? We just don't know what's going to happen. So we've come a long way since then. So you're talking about, you're envisioning boat rentals along the river and that type of thing?
Well, there could be a lot of different things there. You can't put large boats up there because of the bridge clearance, but small boats for sure.
Paddle boats or even small sailboats or whatever.
Kayaking for sure. Crew boats, sculling crew competitions. And then some small recreational boats. There will be room for marinas. There will be room for people, in certain size boats to get all the way up there and to go all the way out the harbor as well. So and those opportunities create, more economic activity and more jobs, and certainly will help the neighborhood.
No interest in any kind of rental facilities like up off of the peninsula or anything like that, to rent boats or to do.
We were approached a couple of years ago by a kayak rental place that wanted to situate itself in one of the buildings on West Beach. The only problem is that the building needed and still needs a good deal of work, and so I think the time will So we weren't financially in a position to make that happen. Needed a new roof and needed a number of other things. Eventually, that will happen. There's certainly been interest there for
parasailing. You see parasailing in a lot of
I don't know
places,
if that might be doable as well. I'd be open to doing that, or kayaks, and that's a good spot for those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me take the second break. We'll come back. If you've got another question or a comment for the mayor, 508-996-0500. We got him out of the way just like that, but. The lines are open. If you want to say something to the mayor, please give us a call, and you've got some time to do that. We'll be right back after this message. All right, welcome back to the program. It is 12:47 on this Wednesday afternoon, and we have a few more minutes left with the mayor. And let's grab some calls for the mayor. And I've got a couple other things too that we'll bring up before the show is out. But let's get to your calls first. You're next on WBSM.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Mayor, we have a problem with litter in this city and people not caring about what they do. How would you feel if you were watching city workers filling up the barrels with sand in preparing for the next storm, taking the litter out of the barrels and throwing it on the ground?
I wouldn't like that. I'm sure you don't either.
No, I don't. I saw this happen. I was disgusted by it. And I want to know, why don't they have barrels around the city that we can throw the litter in?
Well, there are.
They're downtown, but I don't see them around the city.
Like up around the boulevard near Volk in that area. I know
there are. We have, I forget how many hundred barrels around the city. Last I checked, I think there were like 900 barrels around the city. There are an awful lot.
Well, I live on a street that's very narrow, and they park on both sides. So we don't have a city sweep, other than myself going out and sweeping my block.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Well, it's part of pride.
Right. People need to do that. People need to have more pride and go out and take care of their property.
But I really would like it if you would.
Thanks for the call, my friend. I appreciate it very much. You're up next on WBSM. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I have a Christmas wish, Mr. Mayor.
Good.
I've made a phone call within the year to City Hall and got into forestry and asked that a tree be taken down in front of my house. The last windstorm, the branches were bending so much I thought they were going to hit my house. And I do have insurance, and I just don't want a hole in my roof, even though the insurance may cover it. Also, I did call your office, and I got in touch with a lady by the name of Diane, a few weeks ago about it, right after that windstorm. Mm-hmm. And she said she would bring it to the attention of the appropriate department. But yet, there's nothing been done. I believe the tree is a city tree. It's been around a long time. The canopy is starting to fail. It's just big chunks of tree fall off.
All right, so basically you're waiting to find out what the city can do about it.
Well, if the mayor could grant me a Christmas wish and get forestry to come here and take it down, or take a look at it.
So we'll have somebody take a look at it. Somebody's probably already taken a look at
well,
it,
at
but
least
if they haven't gotten back to you, they should. But
where is it again?
It's in the West End. I don't know if I want to give my number over the.
Why don't you could call the office and
speak to Diane again?
Yeah. So Diane listens to the show, and so she will take it down. I take your number down. What probably happened is they probably looked at it and said it was okay, in okay shape.
Mr. Mayor,
Maybe
it's not okay.
Whatever the answer is.
Yeah. There's big chunks of tree that end up in the sidewalk and in the street.
Appreciate your call. Thank you very much. You're up next with the mayor on WBSM. Oops, I'm sorry. You're next. Yep, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's the mayor.
Yes, sir.
Looks like they're not going to do any more work on Route 18 now for the winter. How come they don't open the River Street entrance from 18? We have to go around to one-way streets to get to County Street.
So we can look at that. I don't know that it's a state project. I don't know that they are done with it for the winter. They're probably done with some things for the winter. Once it gets below a certain temperature, they stop pouring cement. So those parts of the project might be done. Some of the other parts of the project can still go forward. I'm not so sure about the detour, but yeah, I can follow up on that. I'm not sure. So just so I'm clear. I
don't see anybody working here. I mean, that looks like it's paved, and I mean, it got barrels there. We cannot go through it.
It's probably because they may be done. They may be done for the next few months until it warms up. Construction projects tend, here, not to go through the winter unless it's a really warm winter. And as you know, we've had some cold days recently. If it warms back up, they'll probably be back out there. It's just that the cement doesn't cure in cold temperatures, so or cure the right way.
All right,
but the other thing, just the reason it's there, they're not letting people through is that's an intersection that will have traffic signals which aren't up and running yet. Right. So until those are up and running, we're not going to have people go through that intersection.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your call. Appreciate it. You're up next with the mayor on WBSM. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, you were just talking about barrels. I just turned it on. You're talking about litter. They were talking about litter barrels.
Yes.
Well, how about the sand barrels? I mean, I called the radio station, and somebody was nice enough to say, well, if you go on Liberty Street, I guess at the end, which I had to do, there's a mound of sand. It was a small one, but they said that there was a bigger one on the other side. If we wanted to get sand, but it's okay for some people that can get over there. But in the meantime, I miss the barrels that of sand that we can get sand and we don't have to go all over. Well,
I think they're still at the fire stations because I get some on Sunday at the fire station up near my house.
Well,
they're out there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I've traveled all around. I go from west. Well, I live in the west.
Let me tell you this: the fire station that I got sand at, the barrel looked very different this year than it has in past years. It was actually a barrel up against the building, standing upright with a lid on it.
Yeah.
So it looked very different.
Let me suggest this. So, I think there's a list on the city website of.
Of course, I don't have a computer, so I have to.
So do this. So call my office, 979-1410. And just ask which, give them your address, and they'll tell you Diane will tell you exactly where the closest barrel is. Okay.
Well, I did that, and it was it was supposed to be on the corner. Well, she asked me whereabouts I lived, and I said, well, in the West End. And then she said there was a barrel. Now, I know Liberty Street, way at the end, is where you get the sand, but she said on a specific corner of Liberty, and I forget what the other one was, but it wasn't there. So I drove up and down Liberty Street. Of course, I didn't go way up, because that was where the project was. But anyway, and there wasn't any, so any barrels anywhere. So, but anyway, I was just wondering about it because eventually,
I'm going to look into it. I'm going to get. I'll see if I can't find a list, and we'll mention it on the air. We'll put it on our website or whatever. But I know the fire stations have.
No, there are. So I'm checking my text. There are 101 sand barrels around the city.
Wow.
So they're out there right now.
And people can find this on the
city
website.
I've even gone down the South End and I didn't see any.
All right, appreciate your call. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, me too. This Mr. Sandman. Remember that song? No, you don't remember that one. No, okay. You're next on WBSM. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I understand that lady, but nobody knows that. Doesn't matter how you clean the street. If you go every hour, you're going to find something because of the wind blows. I like to see people get tickets when they threw something on the street.
Me too.
Even cigarettes. And there's something else. City is complaining all the time they have no money. And then they make all those parks and all that. Why don't fix the streets? Make the city much cleaner. And the city will be more appealing than never just one corner with the park, and then the rest of the city is a dump. I'm sorry. If there's enough money, good.
Really,
but if there's no money, fix the rest of the street, the city, so everybody can enjoy, and instead of just one corner. Thank you. Have a good day.
No, that's
Merry
not
Christmas.
So the rest of the city is a dump.
The rest of the city's a dump. Come on. That's a little tough. So the city's had we've had some new parks, and I think people like them. Much of that money is the money to do the parks has come from a number of sources, including the state. So and it doesn't cost all that much actually. And the city's building roads. I mean, she threw out a lot of stuff about road construction, and we've committed to we've ramped up road construction. I think people have seen that with all the detours around. So that money's being spent in that direction. As far as cleaning things up, my own feeling is the city's a lot cleaner than it used to be, and the comments that I get are to that effect, that the city just looks better. I also happen to think that we can do a little bit better still. We've been good at clamping down on properties, mostly some commercial, some residential properties where people leave their barrels out and they're spilling over, and that's the source of a lot of trash. We've done a good job in tamping down on that problem, but and we've also bought a new sweeper. We have for the first time ever sweeping routes, or at least the first time in my memory, sweeping routes that require cars to get out of the way. We started that this summer, mostly in the north end, but also on County Street in the south end. And we're going to continue to do more of that. But it does, at the end of the day, it does require everybody to pitch in. The city certainly has a role to play in keeping things clean and enforcing the trash laws and doing sweeping and all that. But it's incumbent upon everybody to do what a caller 3 or 4 callers ago said, which is, I sweep in front of my house because it's a pride thing. And that's exactly it. That is exactly it. If everybody did a little bit of that, it would go a long, long way.
The acting state education commissioner, Jeff Wilson, says there are more than 2,000 students now from Puerto Rico in Massachusetts, and there is some expectation, and I think you've even addressed this, that there's going to be a ballooning of that number after the first of the year, after the holidays are over. Where are we at? I know last week you said about 138 now.
Right.
Here in New Bedford, and are we seeing more of an influx at this point?
Well, as of last week, I think the number may have been 141, but
okay.
It's continuing to they're continuing to trickle in. There have been some families who've gone back as power has gone back on in Puerto Rico. Some families have returned, but yeah, it's still there's still a net influx now, and so the school department is dealing with it, and we're getting those kids situated in our school system. It does impose a cost on our school system for sure, and that's why I've said aloud publicly that the state needs to.
Well, you've asked for more Chapter 7 money. Any indication from the delegation that that's going to be likely?
I don't know if it's been introduced by the governor yet. I mean, the governor has said that he would do it. He told me that in response to my letter, but he hasn't filed a supplemental budget yet. I would suspect that the legislature will support that proposal once it's in there.
All right, Mayor. Merry Christmas to you.
Look at that, 12:59. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
This
will be the last time I'm on.
Turn around and look who's here. Santa Claus is here.
Oh my!
He's looking at us, has no idea what we're talking
Jim
about.
is glaring at you, Barry.
Look who's here! It's Santa Jim.
He's going to give you a ho 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 to start the news.
Well, Taylor's on vacation.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks for coming in, guys. Merry Christmas, John. Merry Christmas, Mayor. And we'll see you in time for New Year's. Hopefully you'll have your tree all done by New Year's. So.
Yeah, let's hope so.
We're back on the other side. The House has just voted final vote on tax cuts, so we'll have more on that coming up. Stay tuned.
From ABC News, I'm Scott Goldberg. The U.S. House of Representatives once again has passed the GOP tax bill.
On this vote, the yeas are 224 and the nays are 201. The motion is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
The bill was approved along party lines by the Senate last night after 3 small provisions were removed to comply with Senate rules. That's why this had to go back to the House, where Democrats once again are denouncing it.
We were promised a number of things. The only thing they left out was that this tax bill was going to stem the tides, take us to Mars tomorrow, and the Cleveland Browns were going to win the Super Bowl.
Massachusetts Representative Richard Neal.